Okay, so what I wanted to do, I wanted to talk a little bit more about classical conditioning. And I wanted to go over this handout. It is the classical conditioning handout. I want to give you a couple of examples of classical conditioning to help you work on your homework. So some people get a little bit confused about classical conditioning. So I wanted to just start with letting you know that when we talk about the behaviors that can be classically conditioned, we're talking about automatic behaviors, things in the environment that automatically occur. Meaning, if I pull my car up, my dog's going to get excited when I come in the house. If I open up the cat food, my cat's going to come running because the cat knows that he or she is going to get fed. Um, in the Pavlov experiment, the dogs salivated because they knew that the food was coming. This is automatic stuff that we do. So, automatic stimulus response, food, salivation, not salvation. Car drives up, dog gets excited. These are all things naturally occurring. Now, when we talk about classically conditioning, though, we talk about something in the environment that's paired with the stimulus, which then causes the response. So, for instance, in the Pavlov dog experiments, right before the food was presented, they presented a bell. So it was bell, food, salivation. Bell, food, salivation. So multiple conditioning trials eventually resulted in just the bell causing salivation without the food being present. So that's what they call a conditioning trial. Now, in something like food and salivation, it's going to take multiple conditioning trials to make the bell be associated with the food. But what if it's something really scary, like what if you are in a plane crash and you never want to get into a plane ever again? One conditioning trial. So when you hear the words conditioning, unconditioned, just remember that conditioning trial. So let me give you an example. So let's talk about this handout, number 3. Jerry's wife, Maria, gets a new negligee and wears it whenever she is in the mood for sexual activity. After a month, the sight of the nightgown alone is enough to excite Jerry. So we always start, what is this? What is the stimulus response? Sexual activity, right? The idea of sexual activity causes what? Excitement. Yes? Sexual activity idea, I'm getting excited now. Now, what did Jerry present? Well, I guess a lot of trials because it says whenever she is in the mood. What did Jerry's wife present? Negligee, sexual, the idea of sexual activity, arousal. Over and over and over and over, however many conditioning trials, and now negligee equals the same kind of sexual arousal that would happen if he knew he was having sex. And this is the way that fetishes are created. So normally occurring in the environment with no conditioning, no, it's unconditioned. It's just normal. The unconditioned stimulus is the idea of sex, and the unconditioned response is arousal. Now, a neutral stimulus, it's a nightgown, right? You're not, it's just a nightgown, just like it's a bell in the Pavlov's dogs experiment. It's a neutral stimulus. So you pair the neutral stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus, i.e., the idea of sex, and then arousal. So in this case, it's nightgown, idea of sex, arousal, again and again and again. Now you present just the nightgown, and now you're aroused. So that neutral stimulus, after multiple trials, is now able to elicit the conditioned response. How is that? So we take that neutral stimulus, and after it being paired, now it's been conditioned to cause the conditioned response. So the neutral stimulus becomes the conditioned stimulus for the conditioned response. How is that? How is that? Now, Let's try another one. Oh, here's a plane crash one. Okay, number 5. A student survives a plane crash that occurred because of a thunderstorm. Now, whenever the student hears thunder, he gets anxious and fearful. So we start at, without any conditioning, what's the stimulus response? So what's the stimulus? Plane crash equals fear. I don't think there's anybody in the entire world who would not be afraid if they were in a plane crash. So naturally occurring in the environment, stimulus response. Now, in the case of this student, what happened right before the plane crash, which then caused fear? A thunderstorm, right? And it was really scary, right? Thunderstorm, plane crash. Oh my God, I'm scared. Happened one time, one trial. And now he survives the plane crash, but he hears thunder, and now he has the same feeling in his body upon hearing the thunder as if he was in a plane crash. So, by itself, thunderstorms they're neutral. They're a neutral stimulus. There's no fear. It's just, oh, hey, there's a thunderstorm. But in this case, that was paired with the plane crash and the fear. So now the thunderstorm causes the same amount of fear as a plane crash. How are we doing with that? So the neutral stimulus with one conditioning trial now elicits the conditioned response, which is fear. So it's almost like we took away the plane crash. We don't even have to have the plane crash, and we have all the fear. How are we doing? Does that make sense? Now, okay, here is a true story. My son and I have the family networking app called the Life 360, which alerts us when we leave home or have returned. This app chimes a minute or so before either of us return home. When our dog Hunter hears the chime, he runs to the window with excitement. So, naturally occurring in the environment, with some conditioning probably, the dog has learned he hears my car pull up and he gets excited because I'm coming in. Usually that means it's time for food. So, car pulls up, dog gets excited, naturally occurring. So that is the unconditioned stimulus, car pulling up, unconditioned response, excitement. Now, the Life 360, about, 30 seconds before I even turn onto the street, goes ding. So for him, maybe a few trials, ding, neutral stimulus paired with the unconditioned stimulus, which is my car pulling up, unconditioned response. I'm so excited, I'm a dog. I'm so excited. Now, after a while, when he hears that ding, that neutral stimulus, he goes to the window. My car's not even pulling in yet. He goes to the window and he's excited. So that means that due to these conditioning trials, that neutral stimulus caused the same response as the unconditioned stimulus, meaning the car pulling up and the dog getting excited. Now, hearing the ding, the dog gets excited. How are we doing? So the neutral stimulus, ding, turns into the conditioned stimulus, ding, for the conditioned response. I'm so excited, I'm a dog. How are we doing with that? So the neutral stimulus becomes the conditioned stimulus for the conditioned response, because after conditioning, that's what happened. So I wanted you to hear that just a little bit. Now, it's on here, and then that's also going to be your homework. So I want you to read through that. I do have a bunch of videos, fun videos, serious videos to help you understand it a little bit more. But, when I teach in person, I always go over this before the students do their homework. And so I just wanted to make sure I went over a little bit for you. Of course, let me know if you guys have any questions. Okay? You take care.